Hi, I'm Andy Liggett, and we're here with Matthew chapter 15. So there's three major sections in Matthew chapter 15. There's Jesus kind of gets in a debate with the Pharisees again. Jesus heals a woman's daughter actually, and then Jesus feeds 4,000. I'm not going to get into Jesus feeding the 4,000 today. I'm going to do that tomorrow because I feel like it connects better with what comes after. But that's how it's divided. So I'm really just going to talk about the debate with the Pharisees and Jesus healing the Canaanite woman's daughter. So the Pharisees, it says that it's the Pharisees that are coming from Jerusalem. So these are like the top Pharisees. These are, the highest of the high. These are the big wigs, and they come to Jesus and they say, how come your disciples aren't washing their hands? Now we can all agree washing your hands is a good thing to do right before they eat. And so they're eating and they're not, this is not about hygiene. I will say that they're not talking about just washing your hands, to have clean food. They're talking about ritual washing. They had all these rules where you had to wash your hands in a certain way, and then the water had to go down your hand a certain way, and you had to do it so many times for so many, minutes. And the disciples, they may have been cleaning their hands, but they weren't doing the ritual cleaning that the Pharisees expect people to do. And Jesus kind of says, how come you're not honoring your parents? Something that is way more important. We can all agree honoring your parents is more important than washing your hands. But not to the Pharisees. They didn't see it that way. I think that we don't see it in this culture as much as that culture, because they lived in an honor-shame culture. And he's saying, you're not honoring your parents. It was actually quite a smackdown that Jesus was giving the Pharisees here. It would be like today, the Pharisees are being legalistic. And it would almost be like they're saying, Jesus, how come at your church you guys are reading the New Living Translation and you're listening to that rock and roll music? And Jesus was like, I don't know. How come in your ministry your old people are dying of starvation and you guys are flying around in a jumbo jet? It's it's not right. They found some sort of loophole where they said that the money that belongs to the Pharisees is God's money. It sounds good, but they weren't taking care of their own parents. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening there. And I think it's important to highlight here why legalism is such a bad thing. It's essentially a form of idolatry. You're loving the rule and not the rule giver. So after that, his disciples were saying, can you explain to us what you said here? And when he said it's not what goes in your body that defiles you, it's what comes out of it. And he was saying, out of your heart your mouth speaks, and out of your heart, you do these actions. The problem is with your heart, and the overflow from your heart is your speech and your actions, and those are the things that defile you. He's saying it's not washing your hands, it's not doing the rituals, it's not the legalism, it's not the effect, it's the cause. That's what Jesus is saying. You have to look at the cause. And the cleaning of the hands, that was really just a symbol of what God is doing for us. He cleanses us. We're supposed to wash away the sins with Jesus. We're not just supposed to do these rituals. So, but then it comes to this second part really interesting part where there's a woman and she has a daughter who is being oppressed by a demon, and it sure looks like she's being rude. I have watched a couple sermons and read a couple commentaries, and basically I'm seeing a lot of people saying, oh, he's not really being rude to this woman, but it sure sounds like it. I will tell you, first he ignores her, and then he kind of acknowledges her, but he doesn't really speak directly to her. And then he does speak to her, but he calls her a dog. And then he heals her daughter. And every time I read it, I was watching some other commentaries on this, and they were saying, when he called her a dog, it was the diminutive form. It's not a dog, it's a doggy, or it's a little dog. It's better. I don't think that's much better. What he says is, he's like, I've come for the Jewish people. I'm not here for the Gentiles. And he doesn't, when he says that, he's not speaking to her. He's speaking to his own disciples. So the question is, why is Jesus being so rude to this woman? And I will answer that question by throwing in a little bit of context. And I hesitate to do this because I haven't seen anybody else who's corroborated what I have seen in this text. So check me if I'm wrong, really get into the word. I highly encourage that every day. But I will say this, that when you read it and you understand the geography a little bit, it reads kind of like this. So picture, first I want to say that Jesus is healing tons of people in this time. It keeps on saying he's healing. He went to this place and he helped a multitude of people. And then he went to this other place and he healed a multitude of people. But this one story just kind of sits out. Why do they even talk about this one woman, this one Canaanite woman? And so this is how it reads to me. When I read it, this is what jumps out. Picture Israel is Michigan. And so Jesus is traveling around Michigan and he's healing people. So he says, Jesus went to Detroit and he healed a bunch of people. And then he came to Ypsilanti and there was a multitude of people. And then he came to, Ann Arbor, and the chief priest from Lansing came over and debated with him for a little bit. And then Jesus said, let's go to New York City and Boston. And they go over to New York City, and everywhere they go, they're healing a multitude, but they go over to New York City and Boston, and somewhere, around Yonkers, New York, they find this woman who says, Son of David, have mercy on me. This one woman way out there is saying, please help me. She's calling him Son of David, acknowledging that this man is the Messiah. And Jesus goes all the way out there, and then he ignores her, and then he's like, look, I haven't come for you. I've come for my children. It's not good to feed the dogs when my children are hungry. And she said, but even the dogs get the scraps of the food. She's saying, I just need a little bit. Just please help me a little bit. But the glaring thing is like, why did Jesus go all the way to New York City? This is the only miracle that he did in that whole long journey where he leaves, this area. He's not even among his people. And he's like, I didn't come for your people. That's not why I came to earth. I didn't come for your people. But he's out in New York City. He's out in Tyre and Sidon, it says. And, this Canaanite woman, the reason I see that he went out there is because he knew there was a woman who had great faith that was crying out to God because her daughter was being oppressed by a demon. So when you think of it that way, You know, and I'm sure the original readers would have read it that way. They would have said, oh my gosh, he went all the way out there and that's all he did? It must have been that he went out there for her. So it paints in a new light. You know, another reason I think he did it is because I think a certain amount of nationalism is in the hearts of his disciples. And they're looking at him, they, you know, at some point they said, why don't you just send her away? And some people took that to mean, you know, why don't you just give her what she wants? But Jesus is showing them, I care about these people too. And I feel like when he's ignoring her, he's probably thinking like, is this what you want me to do? And at some point they're like, no, we want you to help this woman. And he does. So that is my interpretation of Matthew chapter 15. All right, have a great day. Bye. Hey everybody, I'm here at work, and sometimes I feel like I miss the point a little bit. And so I just wanted to say something that was really important in this passage. And that was that right at the end of that passage where he healed the daughter of the Canaanite woman, he looked right at her and he said, "Oh woman, your faith is great." And if you say, "Oh woman," you know, today, I feel like it doesn't mean the same thing that it meant back then. But if you address a woman directly and you call her woman, in that culture, it was actually giving her a lot of dignity. It was showing a lot of respect for her. And he says, "Oh woman, your faith is great." And I feel like that's maybe one of the highest compliments that God could give you. So I hope that you and I would have the faith in our life that God would look at us and say, "Your faith is great." So I felt like that was a major point of this passage. I just didn't want to miss that. So have a great day. Bye.